Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear us well. Um, Before we start showing the slides, I would like to extend welcome to our Stefanini Talk Show series. Today, webinar is going to be around retail. We are going to discuss, and we have now, I hope you can see the screen. We are going to be focused on how the groceries sales were affected during this COVID-19 outbreak. The webinar will take roughly around 45 minutes, and we are saving the last 15 ones for questions and answers. You can find in the interface for this tool a section where you can put the questions. The structure of the webinar will be we will show you one of the solutions we have built for the COVID-19 outbreak. It's something that we have built kind of like a month ago. But we will not focus only on that one. Basically, what we want to do is to look more into the context, the behaviors of retailers and consumers in this crisis, because it's interesting to see how each of them reacted. We will just use our TAP grocery retail solution as a framework for this discussion. This being said, I'm Mihai. It's nice to have you here, and let me introduce Alex and Bogdan, my colleagues here.
Hey, hello. Thank you very much for your time and for joining our webinar, and I hope you're going to leave with a lot of useful information after this.
Good morning, everyone. So let me start. So my name is Bogdan, and I've been with Stefanini for about 10 years, working very closely with our retail customers. I'll start by, before we go and dive into the showcase of Tap Don't Touch and the solution that we have created, I want to share with you a bit of the insights that we have gathered during this period. And it all starts actually with one of the, if you look at what's happening out there, people have been wondering, why are people buying, doing panic buying? Why are they buying all of these things? And Alex here, our customer consumer expert, maybe Alex, can you explain a bit what's the psychology behind panic buying? Why are people behaving like this? Because I think it's important to first understand why people behave in a certain way before we reach out to them with any kind of solution.
So Bogdan, this is the question that was on everybody's mind since the situation started with the pandemic. One of the most important triggers that we as humans have is what we call the fear of missing out. Meaning that something very powerful starts to happen within us, in which we think, okay, if I'm not doing this now, I might not be able to do it afterwards. And this is one of the key triggers that generated a lot of consumption that started to happen in a very atypical way. We have to think on how were these people, including ourselves. We were in the same situation, guys. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not experts and consumers. We are all humans, and we were bombarded from everywhere with tens and hundreds of news. Nobody knew what was going to happen. All these countries started taking all these measures, and literally nobody could say what was going to happen. Therefore, all the consumers started to think about the future. If I'm not buying 2 cans now, or 4 or 10, when am I going to be able to buy again? What if there's going to be a lockdown? What if I'm not going to be able to come here to the supermarket again? And this is what started like a domino effect of artificial consumption.
But Alex, I think this was also, maintained by a lot of media showing people waiting in lines, taking, all those products, which created panic. So I don't know if it's only missing out, but also the amplification done by social platforms. But I don't think it's only that. Bogdan, you also have another idea.
So I think that, this, which leads to the next topic, I think that if you look back historically, and you don't have to look very far, even the last 5-7 years, we've seen a few trends in retail, whether it's grocery retail or, fashion or pharma or any kind of retail. And those trends have been amplified by Corona. and the behaviors that we see today. One example is that, you know, and then the physical store has changed. There are less of them, and the ones that are there have a different kind of purpose. So if you look here on the left, I had a, you know, this was an old statistic, right? Even from 3 years ago, but it's relevant in hindsight to see how many stores have opened and how many have closed, and which are the categories of retail that have done that. And the trends that actually that, you know, we have seen are in, and there are potentially others as well, but the ones that we have seen are the physical store and the supermarket and grocery has changed. Its purpose is slightly different than it used to be. And to explain a bit, it's not just the place where you go and buy things. That's from the consumer perspective, or from the retailer perspective. It's not just the place where you bring things in your warehouse and then you put it on the shelf and people take it out, they pay and they go out. It's a lot more than that. It has become a place that acts maybe like a warehouse when it comes to online shopping. It's a place where people go and just collect their groceries. It's a place where people may learn about certain things like a recipe, or you know, it's also the supermarket itself. If you think the digital extension of it has become more and more relevant to people. Omnichannel. Now we've been discussing about omnichannel maybe in retail for the last 25 years. Since the digital age, since Amazon is becoming, you know, more and more relevant in everywhere. In US, they're doing groceries as well. But now with Corona, this is transformed into what it, you know, omnichannel is all digital. And the store has become less and less relevant. To give you a statistic, it used to be that retailers were selling 80-85%, if you know, if not more than that, but you know, a good digitalized retailer would sell 85% of their stuff in the physical store. Now it's completely flipped. People order at home, people, you know, get it at home. And while this may not be permanent, we all hope so, I think that there will be lasting effects. Supply chain resilience. We have seen that when a crisis happens, like the ones we are living through today, the factories that produce the goods, or the delivery people, you know, companies, they are all affected. Everybody's affected. So there are maybe companies that will not have their workers in their facility. So there will be some supply chain resilience issues, which retailers have been trying to fix for a long time through you know, implementing tools, processes, multiple distribution models. There's all sorts of things that people have tried out there. And last but not least, personalization. I think a big trend in the consumer world is people want to have their own special offer, their very own. I have my preference, and I want that preference to be recognized by the store, and I don't want, you know, to be fed things and promotions that I don't like. And these are potentially three trends that are accelerated by the COVID-19 crisis. And before we go to the accelerators and the opportunities, if you want to add something, Alex, on the trends on the consumer side.
Yeah, very good points, Bogdan. And I want to add something from a discussion we had with one of our partners yesterday, when they asked specifically, how do you think the consumer behavior is going to change in relation with our products? Do you think there will be impact in the customer journeys that we have set up and configure the digital assets according to them? And what we said, and I want to emphasize this because I think it summarizes perfectly, instead of having 4 or 5 major customer journeys, you will have 10,000 customer journeys, or 15,000, or 100,000.
Why is that, Alex?
Because it's connected with what Bogdan was saying. The way people react and they cope with the new reality is different. So I think it's every brand's duty, and retailers especially, to understand exactly how people are reacting to this, how their behavior changed in relation to their brand, and to be able to put up the digital assets in place to satisfy that need. And in order to do that, what they need to do is to have all the data points to measure this effectively, to be able to have dashboards that show them the weak signals, and to have interpreters ready to tell them that this weak signal over here is going to turn into a trend for this specific target group. And I want to make another mention. I know it might sound blunt, but guys and everybody who's watching us, the way people spend determines which companies survive and also determines who has a job. It is very tough. And understanding the way people spend and being able to adapt your company to the way they spend early on is what is going to save your company. Another thing that we have noticed by being able to measure a lot of interactions between major brands, especially in retail. Retail is a big part of our portfolio. When there was no end to the outbreak in sight, the consumer spending changed a lot. And when I mean a lot, here we have to look at many things. Just to give you a quick example about the grocery market. Grocery sales obviously went up. They were one of the things that went up. They skyrocketed. And we started to really dig in and see, why are these people buying more and more groceries? And in the beginning was exactly what I was starting to tell you, the fear of missing out. Let me buy some things to have them. But groceries cannot last forever, right? You cannot buy groceries for 2 months ahead, okay? They spoil if you don't use them, if you don't eat them fast. All the groceries, and I mean here fresh food, vegetables, all the things that are perishable, you cannot buy like in advance, okay? And by digging up, we came up to some very interesting insights. And one of them, and this is going to be really interesting, guys, it's how the social world, the social media, our digital interfaces connect with our real lives. And if there are companies who know how to interpret this, they can really help. People started, obviously, to cook more at home. So
I can testify to that.
exactly.
Yeah.
So guys, what does this mean?
Yeah, I make a mean pizza.
Exactly. So all of the sudden, there was this joke that after this pandemic,
Well, I was referring to my wife, in fact.
After the pandemic, we are going to have 3 things, right? More babies, more divorces, and more cooks, right? So at the end of the day, a very important thing happened. We didn't go out anymore, okay? Second, the financial insecurity led to a lot of us considering twice if we are going to order from our favorite places. Ordering in means a lot of money, okay? It costs you. So what if instead with the budget for 1 meal of ordering in, I'm going to cook 3 meals? What do I need in order to cook? Groceries. So the whole idea is to understand scenarios like this and help our clients always to adapt their businesses, to be there to wait for the clients to wait them with the best possible digital assets. And in here we have a lot of projects that we already rolled out and put into place, in which we are trying to mix the idea of recipes, of cooking advices with the consumers, and thus helping them select the right groceries for their cooking, for their newfound passion. And one more thing, which I think it's extremely funny, and I need to add this. Obviously, some of them discover the inner cook, and the things they post are incredible. Like, really, I want to eat the screen when I see what they cook. But man, there are others who shouldn't post what they are cooking because it's not helping anybody.
Which actually, you know, it's a good point. I think that if you think about what sells for supermarkets today, it's the chefs that have been on YouTube for a long time. Those are the best brand leaders that can push a particular brand, a super grocery chain or supermarket chain. Now, in terms of accelerators, I think we mentioned a few already. So, and you hinted towards that, Alex, which is demand fluctuation. So people will buy more now, then maybe they'll buy less. So it used to be that everybody makes their grocery shopping on a particular day of the week, and now they buy every other week, right? You can buy for 2 weeks or maybe for 3 weeks in advance some certain things. There's another accelerator, I think, that has supported things like the resilience of business models, and this actually goes across all industries, and everybody's affected by this today. And for those of you in the audience there that are in leadership positions in retailers, I think this is one of the key things that you are worried about, right? Or your management is worried, your leadership is worried about, which is cash. Right, we need to, in order for an economy to work, we need to have cash, right? We need to buy things, we need to pay people, and we need to sell stuff. So there's the fragility of cash flow, especially in retail. If you throw a wrench in the system, as the saying goes, if everything stops, how long will you survive? And there have been some out there that are likely to go out of business because they have not had enough cash. And take this as a prediction from my side. And I think that over the next years, especially here in the European Union, we will see stronger legislation imposed on companies to build cash flow resilience. And at the same time, I want to say a positive thing. I think this Corona crisis could have not come at a better time. Imagine if this would have come in 2008, right? Now that would have been a compounded effect that unlike the world probably has ever seen, which doesn't, not to minimize Corona, but we were in a good place when this started, and we did have cash globally to survive, both individuals, companies, small and medium companies, large companies, to survive for 3 months, 2 months. Some had, have cash in the bank to survive for years. Some of the big companies.
I think the big companies do, but there are a lot of small retailers that are now struggling to pay their bills, and especially the ones which are not online. Fortunately, most of the products which are not perishable can be sold online, and most of them already had e-commerce sites, while groceries didn't. Fortunately, groceries are not ones, you can still go and buy groceries now during the lockdown, so they are less affected. Still, there is the danger, and this is another trend we have discussed before, is how do we protect the people? Because when you sell groceries, you have to think of your own employees, which are at risk, but also at the customer. So how do you reduce the time which you have there? Especially in the context of the first thing that you have mentioned, struggling with paying the bills and paying the employees. You cannot afford to have so many people picking and packaging stuff to do online, to do home deliveries or things like that.
That's a good point, and which is why we have their warehouse and store operations. We've been discussing with a retailer that has been struggling a lot in the past month and a half. So when everything went to lockdown, people started making orders. And the way that some of the retail, they were in this particular case, they were organized to have a 15% channel for online, and they were scaled for that 15%. Their call center, their pick and collect operations, their tooling, everything was scaled for 15%, and 85% were doing in-store selling. Now, when all of this changed, they were faced with the challenge of having, just to give you an example, in one particular store, they used to have 80 calls per month. Now they have 3,000. So they have to, their operations had to be more, to build more flexibility and have a lot more there. The community which you mentioned, and also I want to end with on this particular important, I think, slide, which is about opportunities. We need to react today. We need to react today, but also we need to have long-term plans. We need to be closer to the consumer and build a customer experience that is honest, it is close to the customer, and it is there, you know, on all of the channels available. So this concludes, you know, just a bit of the overview and how we see things and how we see all the opportunities and the accelerators. And we wanted to share this with you because I think there is a lot of opportunity out there to do things that are good, and they are for the community, and they are build resilience and sustainability for grocery retailers. So we want to share with you today an example of such an initiative that we have led, and we've had a good success so far, and we have had a lot of good feedback from the market and from all of the people we interacted with. It is one idea to showcase how we work, how we operated, how quickly we reacted to this, and how if you have the right tools and talent, you can, even now when people are struggling, you can build solutions that are relevant, and they're relevant for today and long term. So just a quick overview of the opportunity or challenges that we identified, and we kind of mentioned this a bit before. So in this unprecedented global crisis where, you know, there's risk for infection in the stores, but you have people that are, you know, in a particular social categories that are more affected than others, how can we help them, you know, cope, continue to lead their lives, continue to get their basic goods, as well as, you know, their, maybe, you know, it's their birthday, so maybe they want something special for that day, even if they can't get out of the house. And how do we also mitigate what, Mihail, you were mentioning at the beginning, which is panic? The panic sells well on the media, and we have to be very careful there because we do not want to amplify panic. Brands do not want to amplify panic. And I'll give you a personal example. I went to the store in the morning. The fresh foods area was empty. I went the same day in the evening, and it was full. But and people that went in the morning saw that it was empty. They didn't go in the evening, so they remained with the impression that there's shortage. There isn't. It's just people buy more, or there are shortages, but we are managing them. So this is the context, and the solution that we proposed. We wanted to help the supermarkets stay in business and continue to serve the communities. We wanted at the same time to protect the consumers and the store workers. We wanted to provide a communication channel to manage these levels of panic, and something that we could deploy as soon as
Very
possible.
fast,
So
yeah.
not something that takes months and months to implement. And so we wanted to bring that agility that we have as a team internally to the retailers. And retailers, some of them are more agile, but as an industry is sometimes not the most flexible industry. So we want to bring that experience that we have in IT to be agile, to be fast, to discuss with the consumer to have a conversation rather than a monologue. Before we go into the details of the solution, I just want to quickly introduce the group that kind of co-created, as we say at Stefanini, this thing, which is made of a partnership between three teams. We have Extenda Retail, which is one of the most successful global retail solution providers in the world. They have their solution power around 96% of all point of sale transactions in Sweden and Norway. They are long-term partners, and we leverage a lot of their solutions. We won't go into deep today about that, but we're more than happy to share that with you. The Stefanini Group, which is a global company, being able to deploy locally, but also regionally, nationally, some solutions, whatever those may be. We have the capability to scale up and support quickly, and also, you know, you can have the best tools and you can have the best deployment in the world. As long as you don't have the right insights, the strategy, the creative, the go-to-market approach for those tools, you're likely to not have the success that you're going to have. And that's why Alex is here, representing Infinit, our global digital agency. So this is together, you know, these three, we create a suite of offerings we call Retail OS 360, and one of them that has joined recently is the Tap Don't Touch. And Alex, if you want to talk about Tap Don't Touch, the genesis of this idea, how we came about to to have it, and which are the actual target groups, and maybe some of the customer conversations that you had?
So thank you for the introduction, Bogdan, and creating the context. Like Bogdan was saying, Retail OS 360 is a concept, it's a framework, and the OS there, you guessed right, comes from operating system. We put together all the best of our knowledge, solutions, and experience and expertise to create this operating system framework for retailers. And it works very well because it takes in consideration absolutely all the factors from all the areas of expertise. In regarding the tap, don't touch concept, it came out organically, again, coming back to understanding the actual behavior of the consumer. And this is one example of the things that we came up with, the don't touch concept. One of the most important things that was found out after the pandemic started was that our seniors were more affected about the virus than, let's say, the other generations, the younger generations. So taking this in consideration, we were thinking what solution we could present to all of our retail clients to implement fast. I'm talking 2 weeks fast, right? 1 or 2 weeks fast implementation in order for them to help those people. And we dug in even deeper. The elder people that some of them they are forced, sadly, to go alone and buy the groceries that they need. Okay, they don't have near them family, younger people that they help them. So that's a big issue. The other ones have a family that can help them, and we took in consideration both scenarios. So for us, we also realized, if we take a look at the statistics regarding the actual purchasing, the basket, we call it, the purchasing basket, we also took in consideration exactly what type of products they put in the basket that they buy. And we came up with this concept that is a very easy interface that you pay for monthly, because again, take in consideration that a lot of these people are not digital. So they don't know how to order online, they don't have accounts with delivery companies, they don't have all the things that for us are like water and air. Okay, so we created this concept for the retailers so they can help and protect a very important part of their target group. This was how we came up with it. And why we called it tap, because you know, when you go in the classic way to buy things, you touch a lot of things, you know, put your hands all over it, there's a huge risk of infection. But if you only tap your phone, or you tap the tablet, or you tap a button, then it's easy to have the shopping done. And after, I want to also invite Mihail and Bogdan to talk about the solution overview over here. And then I will come back to tell you also why we chose to do it with a monthly subscription and a limited number of SKUs.
Okay, Alex. So I guess that's my cue to step in. I really like the idea. I still remember 1 month ago when Alex came to this idea. But what we had to do, and I think it's important for you as well, people working in retail, how to approach. You have a good idea, but in order to make it feasible, it has to be, I don't know, fit for purpose. So we created an idea that it's pluggable. It's something that can be, like Alex said, implemented in less than 2 weeks. It's something that should be easy to be connected to the existing infrastructure that all retailers have, to get the stocks, to manage the e-commerce, to be, how to say, simple enough to use, to be used by the consumers, more or less digital, to help the brand, and you will see the superhero part of the solution. So actually addressing both the customer, I'm referring to the people buying in the shops, the other customer, which is our customer, the retailer, and also their retailer image. So the solution is actually a very lightweight e-commerce, which can be built on Magento or any other tools, which sits in cloud. It has an integration to some components of retail retail solutions from Extenda, basically for the companies that don't have an existing infrastructure or may need some additional tools, Extenda Retail has full package of solution varying of complexity, from simple ones which can be deployed ad hoc to very complex ERP style applications, but also integrations to stock. So we have envisioned a solution that can work both independently, because we have the capability to connect this solution to I don't know, grocery stores in the neighborhood or to chains. Yeah, so it has to be flexible and that. But it's not only the solution at the point we start. Like Bogdan has said, retailers, you need to look at the strategy. So the short-term part is survival. So be online, help the customer, but also looking long-term. And we will get to how we build a strategy for long-term and what you need to think about it.
I just want to add one thing to this, Mihai. So we went through a number of iterations here because the context of each retailer is different. Some of them already have most of these components, and some of them have implemented some of the pre-built baskets, but some do not have it, and some require particular areas, like on the communication side, to better discuss with the customer, or on the back office side. Maybe they don't have the best pick and collect connected to the e-commerce, so having a full end-to-end connection. And I want to mention one important aspect of this solution, which is it was designed to operate independently of your existing systems. So you can deploy this parallel to your existing POS and parallel to all of that, so that you can continue running your business as is without a huge integration project and changing of what you have, but have a system that helps you deliver, right? So get the order, process it, and then deliver it. And I think that's important to mention. And you mentioned Extenda Retail and our integration there. Just to give you an overview, again, don't go into detail. This is a solution for now, but also a solution for medium and long term. So you can start with a quick e-commerce and all of the features in the backend that we mentioned, but then you can have a more professional, more advanced version of the e-commerce. You can build a fully enterprise e-commerce with integration with the warehouse, your supply chain and everything. And at the end, you can put all of the loyalty system on top, which means mobile app, omni-channel, and all of those things. So there is a roadmap that we can put in place, even if you start with something small, like a like just the e-commerce. This is just to give you we'll go through the things that we discussed. This is how it would look like the grocery basket. And Alex, maybe you can go and share with us why we thought of it as a subscription and not as a buy once or buy twice, or why is it a subscription?
So again, I'm coming back to understanding the behavior of the targeted segment. The more payments they had to make, the more difficult it was. Second, if you don't use e-commerce and you're not digital, then obviously it's hard to pay online. And third, if they would have to go and pick up the basket, every time they would pick it up, they would have to pay, either using a card and thus increasing the risk, or using cash, which is the highest risk. Okay, so then we thought, what if we limited all the payments in a month to one? Therefore, thinking of it as a subscription. And second of all, why the limitation of the SKUs? And now it's a lot of the retailers are doing this already, and we think it's a very good approach. That's why we also came up with it in the beginning of the pandemic. It is very important to do something very counterintuitive. Retailers usually have the interest of keeping the people there as much as possible, seeing things, experiencing, experimenting. Like, the more time you spend, the bigger the basket it is, right? And it's a good thing. Okay, it's a good thing, and we love going shopping. In here, we have to do the exact opposite. If we do the prepackaged options and we limit their number to 3, maximum 5, we have clients that want to have 5, clients that are okay with 3, then the choice is made faster. And very important aspect, when you look at this, it's just 3 options. You might think it's easy. but behind the scenes in the retailer, somebody has to do the picking and packing. Somebody has to go and put together the basket. The more standardized it is, the easier the stress on the operation is. So we wanted to think about this from all the angles, both from the consumer side in terms of interface and the way they choose it, and also from the operational side of our clients. That is why we chose to go with three packages as a standard proposal.
Yeah, but also predictability of stocks. Yeah, it's a factor here. So guys, what I think we should do now is I'm going to ask you, do you think that retailers, I mean, this solution is already, I have seen it implemented with multiple of our customers, but also not only. So it's adopted by large chains already. Do you think, I'm actually impressed of how fast they were able to react. And like you mentioned, it's a counterintuitive thing for them, how to do this. I think, yeah, it's a case where retailers actually acted very fast and managed to be on their feet for this one, yeah, to adjust. I have seen chains of retails that transform into logistic units, yeah. To serve people very fast. They changed the physical store, transform it so that they reduce the interaction, the risk of infection. Any, I don't know, advice that you would give, or things that we have done while building this step, don't touch, that we would like to share with our audience today?
One thing I want to add, which is obviously very important. We keep talking about understanding our clients. When I talk about the behavior in relation with the retailer, especially in groceries, the journey doesn't start when I'm in the supermarket. It doesn't start when I'm browsing the website. It doesn't start when I choose the stuff that I want to buy. You know when it starts? It starts when you say, what am I going to eat today? What am I going to cook tomorrow? That is the secret, actually. You need to understand all the phases that your client is going through. If you are a smart retailer and you employ all of these things, you will be there when you say, Mihail says, what am I going to cook tomorrow? And boom, there's a banner showing, hey, the incredible new salad that you can make out of 3 easy things only at this retailer. That is the way to play it. Okay, we saw that the smartest and the most complete the omni-channel that you build is, and the closer you are to the actual lives of your consumer, the more success you have. So instead of focusing on little segments of the customer journey, you need to really make the effort and understand all of it. People are always in 3 phases, right? They are always in the dreaming phase. Always. They are in the planning phase. So I already dreamed about that huge steak, right? What am I going to do about it now? I have to plan shopping the actual meat for the steak, okay? And once I finish the plan, I go and implement it. And the implementation phase, where I actually go into the store, either digital or physical or online, and then how are you going to help me to put something else next to that meat? Although everybody who's respecting himself knows that good meat only needs salt and pepper. But coming back to this, how are you going to convince me to put something else near it that works to my advantage? You need to always understand this and put the right content at the right time when your client needs to see it.
And I want to, there's one other thing. So that's from, for sure, from the consumer side, but there's one other thing that it's important. So there are some, this is not the most complex ideas, right? Packaging, selling some pre-packaged baskets. However, the devil is in the details, because while some retailers have been very fast at implementing this, they suffered on the delivery side. They have not been able to do, you know, they have the package, but they can't deliver it to the end user. Others have been struggling because they had, you know, 20, 30, 40% increase in demand also in the physical store. So how do you cope with increase in demand and also shift in channels? And all of these details are important. So you need a lot of automation. You need to use the right tools for this scope, and tools that, you know, have not been used or have been not used to their full potential in the past. just to showcase you a bit of again how this went about, we discussed about the process, right, and how this will go when we analyze the customer journey and how we can influence every customer journey. We looked at the particular, you know, components of the architecture which we mentioned before, and I think that that's important. Here are some examples of visuals, how this worked and how this is you know, implemented today. So when you do an e-commerce these days, don't make a complex one. Make a one-page e-commerce. It has to be simple, 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 not something that people just get their basic stuff. There is a, you know, a roadmap that you can put in place so that you can have a very quick time to market. Again, you don't need to have a very complex approach. And to finalize, I think there are a lot of advantages which we mentioned. There are advantages for consumers, advantages for the shops, and advantages for our community. And I want to mention one last thing regarding community before we move to Q&A. One big thing that we recommend to all retailers is do reach out to your community. People are not only consumers, but they can be assets. There are cases, for example, in Denmark where they, you know, young people will do the delivery for the elderly or the, you know, disadvantaged, and they will do it for free. They will act as caretakers.
Mm-hmm.
And there are, for example, a region in Spain that we care a lot about, which is one of the oldest populations that we have in Europe today. And you know, the person at one of the retailers in the region told us, look, these people were at home long before Corona. They were, you know, for them it was hard to get out of the house because they're in their late 80s and 90s. Anyways, they were ill before Corona with other things. So that is, we need a solution that cares for them now, but also long term. So I think we can use this period, which some call the Great Pause, to think a bit deeply, you know, in a deeper and more meaningful way to our communities, to the way we do things, and think of the real advantages that we can put on the table. So with that having said, I'll give Mihail, Alex, final words, and maybe we can move also to questions. I see that we have a few that have already been registered on the platform.
I suggest we go directly to questions, if you don't mind, Alex. Yeah, okay, bro. By the way, Alex, you're on mute. What I also, the first question, it's actually about...
One more thing to add. This situation is bringing in equal measures the best in people and the worst in people. The idea is we need to focus on the best things, and we need to always find ways of doing things together. The more we cooperate, you know, as a group with our clients, as the entire world, the more we cooperate and we help each other, and we understand that this is a joint effort, the faster we are going to go through this, and the things we are going to win as humans by going through this are going to stay with us forever. So I think the final message that I want to give is we need to cooperate, to collaborate, and to co-create the future of the entire humanity at the end of the day. It depends on each and every one of us.
Thank you. I have a question, guys. So one of the questions we received was related to the current context. Do you think it will remain, the behaviors that we build now will remain in the future? I think this is also something important for the people which build specific tools and solutions for this current context. Do you think buying online will remain? I think we do. It will, but yeah, please, guys.
Alex, I'm sure you have a lot more insights here, but if you look at the statistics and the data, as we said at the beginning, these were trends long before Corona. They've just been accelerated. So I would go as far as to say that we're actually getting in 2 years or 1.5 years, whenever this will be, whenever we will reach a new normal, we will have burned through maybe 5 or 6 years of normality, or whatever we would have called normal. At the same time, it takes anywhere between 20 to 60 days to build new behaviors. This is on the psychological level in people. So if I'm accustomed to buying my stuff online, you know, I will continue to do so. I will make a subscription. Maybe this will cross over to B2B. And for example, a cash and carry retailer, a grocery retailer might think of, well, if I used to sell during Corona a prepackaged basket to people or to whatever, or my competitors, you know, the consumer retailer would do that. Why not do this now for you know, corner stores or restaurants? You know, give them a subscription pantry. You don't buy flour or eggs, you buy the availability of having that. So there might be new nice business models coming out of this. I think it will be interesting.
Guys, we have another funny question, which I think it's related to the model itself. Yeah, so we have a subscription with predefined baskets, and this will actually generate the concern is, will I find myself with 3 bags of flour after the Corona period ends? Yeah, which I don't know what to use for. What I wanted to say is that, okay, let's not be very specific and think in general. When we were discussing the baskets, and take this as a concept, yeah. When we do this, you need to actually consider those aspects, like the one mentioned here by our participant. So the basket should not be something that you just pick randomly. It should be, I don't know, we have envisioned discussions by somebody who knows exactly how to do the right diet or things like that. There are a lot of solutions and ideas that can be put on top. Think about leveraging the community, yeah, with the superheroes, like Bogdan said, but also leveraging other businesses. We can use, and we have seen emerging Uber Eats, for example, yeah, to integrate with this solution, or a lot of other businesses, yeah. Uber for itself can be used now for couriers. I have done it myself, yeah. So, yeah.
I also want to answer this question,
please.
Mihail.
Please.
This is a very good question, the one that I see over here that Bogdan asked. You know, what is the risk to find 3 uneaten bags of flour after this? Just to answer this question, I want to say 2 things. First, what is the risk of looking in the pantry and not finding any flour? So what I'm saying is that we need to focus on what this solves, you know, and the issues that it helps avoid, rather than let's say here and there the actual waste. Because yes, you might find 2 extra bags of flour, you know, and then maybe you can cook some nice bread. By the way, I saw some good recipes from from all over the world on Facebook. And the second thing, in order for us to avoid this type of things, we usually implement at the core of all of our solutions, where it's possible and we have the support of the client, machine learning engines that allow us to do real-time trend calculation, and also to be able to see exactly what the consumption is, and to do prediction in a way that we can also adapt those types of offerings. You cannot have a perfect offering with 3 baskets, right? It's impossible to think so. But what I can do, I can have a lot of senior people with their pantries overstocked rather than understocked. I'd rather have more food in my pantry during a pandemic than, you know, complain that I have too much. So I think in the specific case, to answer your question, there will be extra flour in the pantries, but it's for the best.
And I guess I want to add, because a lot of people are concerned about community and whether I'm buying locally, or, as we said at the top, supply chains are being disrupted for whatever reasons, and you know, people not being in there, you know, in the factories or in the fields. And, you know, in Germany, the temporary workers, they had to be an exception for them, because you know, all the vegetables are rotting in the field because there's nobody to pick them. So there's all sorts of disruption happening. And another prediction that is out there, and just to give you you know, again, another story, a bit of a story. This Tap Don't Touch solution, we reached not only retailers with it, we reached also to non-profit organizations providing packaged foods to to elderly and to all sorts of houses for them, and orphanages and so on. So people that do have challenges, and we are helping them in that direction. And what we learned from them was something very interesting. They are, while a tomato that is grown in a huge field somewhere halfway around the world costs less, the fact that we can't get it today pushes us to get a more a better one made by the farmer that is down the street. And I think that's an important aspect. And I think that maybe in this way, buying locally, producing locally, having better quality products, I think with regards to fresh foods, that may happen as well. And because people are, again, they learned in a quick and a new behavior and a new level of quality for those products, they will not go back. So for those of you, again, in the leadership of retailers, think of your supply chain to also include local farmers, local farm organizations that will be able to bring you that fresh product, which people are now getting accustomed to. So that's, I think, another positive impact that may come out of this.
Alex, sorry, guys, we need to stop now.
No,
lots to discuss.
No. We will not take another question now. We will answer all the other questions in writing. I want to thank you all for the participation. I hope that some of the ideas we barely touched today were helpful. If you want to have details about that, please reach out to us. Thank you again. Please enjoy. You will find the webinar recorded, I think, on LinkedIn and at least on our website. Thank you very much. And that's it. Have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. I'm going grocery shopping after I fill out the declaration. Yeah,
let's do that. Bye,
all
everyone.
Right. All the best, everyone. Thank you for attending, and see you soon online or hopefully in the next months in person.